When the sun rose over the Arabian desert in December 2023, a moment unlike any other was about to unfold. The desert air shimmered with expectation as world leaders, spiritual figures, and activists gathered in Dubai for COP28, the global climate summit. But among the many faces and flags, one presence carried a power that transcended politics or policy. Pope Francis, the Bishop of Rome, was set to address the world not as a politician, but as a shepherd, a voice of conscience in an age of crisis. Though illness prevented him from traveling personally, his presence was felt everywhere. Vatican envoys, banners bearing his message, and the unmistakable tone of hope surrounded the event. When Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Pope's Secretary of State, stepped up to deliver his words, an expectant silence fell over the room. It was as though the desert itself paused to listen. The Pope's message was brief but thunderous. "Time is short," he said through Parolin. "Now more than ever, the future of us all depends on the present that we now choose." The simplicity of those words struck a chord deeper than any technical debate. Pope Francis was not there to negotiate emissions, he was there to awaken souls. The applause that followed was not just polite, it was reverent. Delegates from across continents, from Islamic scholars to climate activists, nodded as if hearing a sermon rather than a speech. Dubai's organizers welcomed him with open respect. Across the United Arab Emirates, the memory of his 2019 visit, when he signed the historic Document on Human Fraternity with the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, still lingered. That meeting had been the first between a Catholic pope and a leading Muslim authority in centuries. The people of the UAE still spoke of it with pride. Now, as the Pope's voice echoed again across their land, banners of peace and fraternity adorned Expo City. Even those who disagreed with the Church's teachings admitted that his presence carried a certain divine weight. The Faith Pavilion at COP28, the first of its kind, stood as a symbol of that welcome. Faith leaders from Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, and Buddhism gathered under one roof, praying and discussing climate justice together. It was a sight the world had never seen. Muslim clerics quoted the Quran. Catholic bishops cited the Psalms, both calling humanity to stewardship of the earth. When the Vatican flag fluttered beside the flags of Gulf nations, many saw it as a prophetic sign that faith, when pure, could still unite humanity in a shared cause. As the speeches continued, world media captured the moment. The Pope's words, his white-clad envoys, the desert sunlight breaking through stained glass at the Faith Pavilion. His message resonated especially in Muslim-majority countries. "The earth is our common home," Francis had written. "It is not a resource to exploit, but a gift to protect." That message was shared widely on Arabic social media, even among imams and scholars. For them, it reflected a deep Islamic truth, that creation is sacred and humans are its custodians. As COP28 came to a close, leaders debated pledges and policies. Yet the Pope's message lingered longer than any political statement. His visit, even in absence, had turned a climate summit into a moment of spiritual reckoning. But even as Dubai celebrated, another quiet mission stirred in the background, one that reached far beyond the skyscrapers of the Gulf, across the Persian Gulf, toward the mountains and mosques of Iran. Though Pope Francis has not yet set foot in Iran, the ties between the Vatican and Tehran have quietly deepened throughout his papacy. For decades, the Holy See and the Islamic Republic have maintained official diplomatic relations. Yet under Francis, these connections took on a new warmth. His consistent call for dialogue between Christians and Muslims found an audience in Iranian clerical circles, especially among those in Qom, the heart of Shia scholarship. Iran, a land rich in spiritual history and culture, has long been cautious toward the West. But Francis is not the West. He is the voice of conscience that transcends borders. His appeals for peace in the Middle East, in Syria, Iraq, Palestine, and Yemen, have been noted in Tehran with genuine respect. Iranian media often highlight his opposition to war, his rejection of economic sanctions that harm civilians, and his compassion for refugees. These positions, rare among global leaders, have earned him admiration even among skeptics. In November 2024, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian reached out directly to Pope Francis, urging him to use his influence to help end violence in Gaza and across the Middle East. "The world respects your voice," he said. "We ask you to call for an end to killing, for mercy, for justice." The letter, made public, was seen as a sign that even the most unlikely of powers now looked to the Vatican as a moral authority in times of chaos. Inside the Vatican, Francis listened. His envoys in Tehran reported growing interest among Iranian religious leaders for continued dialogue. Ayatollahs in Qom commented positively on the Pope's speeches about fraternity and care for creation, noting the shared spiritual values between Christianity and Islam. The Vatican's nunciature in Tehran, a modest building with a chapel that overlooks the busy city streets, became a small but vital bridge between Rome and Persia. There were even rumors, never confirmed, that early discussions had begun about a possible papal visit to Iran in the future, a journey that would be both daring and historic. The Iranian Foreign Ministry publicly welcomed such an idea, calling it a gesture of peace and mutual respect. The Vatican, characteristically cautious, did not deny it. If it ever happens, it would be the first papal visit to the country in history, an act that could redefine East-West relations through faith. Even without traveling there, Pope Francis's influence in Iran has grown quietly through his actions. His consistent calls for peace, dialogue, and respect for all believers have made their way into university lectures and interfaith meetings. In Tehran, at the University of Religions and Denominations, professors have quoted him as a model of religious diplomacy. "He represents what the prophets always taught," said one Iranian scholar, "that real power is found not in domination, but in mercy." And so, as the Pope addressed the world from Dubai, speaking of the planet's wounds, his words were also heard in Iran's holy cities, in classrooms, and even in government offices. It was a symbolic echo. The Vatican and Tehran, worlds apart yet somehow listening to each other. When one considers how far history has come, from the days of the Crusades and colonization, to a time when Muslim and Christian leaders exchange blessings instead of threats, one realizes how significant Francis's mission truly is. His voice, soft yet unyielding, bridges what politics could not. For many in the Middle East, the image of the Pope, this elderly man who walks with a limp yet carries the weight of centuries, represents something rare: humility in power. His visit to Dubai proved that even in an age of cynicism, spiritual authority still commands global respect. His outreach toward Iran proved that faith can move where armies cannot. As the desert twilight gave way to night in Dubai and the lights of the city reflected across the Arabian Gulf, Francis's message lingered in the air. "The earth is not ours," he said. "We are its stewards, not its masters." And as the wind carried those words eastward toward Iran, it was as if history itself whispered back, "Peace is still possible." The welcome Pope Francis received in Dubai was warm and symbolic, a reminder that bridges of faith are built not through diplomacy alone, but through courage. And the response from Iran, respectful and hopeful, showed that even old barriers can begin to crack when met with sincerity. The seeds of dialogue have been planted, and Francis tends them patiently, like a gardener of peace. In the end, the story of Pope Francis in Dubai and his outreach to Iran is not about a single visit or event. It is about a vision, a dream of humanity united not by fear but by hope. A dream of faiths walking side by side toward a shared future. From the skyscrapers of Dubai to the domes of Qom, the Pope's message has traveled farther than any airplane could carry him. He has become, in the eyes of many, not just the head of the Catholic Church, but the conscience of the modern world. And as long as that voice continues to speak, there will always be hope for dialogue, understanding, and peace. If this story has inspired you, take a moment to reflect. And if you believe the world needs more voices like this, more bridges instead of walls, then help us share this message. Like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the Papal and Royal Summit to continue this journey through the history and faith that unite us all. Together we can keep the flame of peace alive